going through for the last few weeks and going a little bit further. We have a couple of bowls of chocolates there if anybody wants to pass them around. So my name is Bruce and I'll be your host for this segment. As you can see on the screen there, we're looking at this idea of the journey to authentic family. And we're going through the book of 1 Corinthians as we do that. So we've had several messages on this so far. We've had an overview of what this book is about. We've had the idea of what is God's wisdom versus man's wisdom, and how does that fit into this idea? And then the necessity for us to rely on the Holy Spirit to understand these things. So that's where we've got to so far, and we're going to be looking at 1 Corinthians chapter 3 and a few verses in there this evening. I didn't mention it earlier because I wanted to mention it now, but when we're talking about the Bible app came up with the key verse for this evening's message. Now, it's not that we look at the Bible app and say, oh, that's what we'll preach on this Sunday. Howard and Peter went through this quite some time ago and came up with the sermon outlines. And it just so happens that the Bible app on Thursday or Friday, had this particular verse as a reference. And so, as Lynette said, where we hear it more than 2 or 3 times, then we really ought to pay attention. Maybe it's got something important to say to us. I was able to use that verse with a devotion that I was leading on Friday morning as well. So it's something that is becoming significant for me. So, the journey to authentic family. It's Mother's Day, and mothers are part of family, and we've had the pictures that we've gone through and thought about our mothers. This morning, this was my morning church and the mothers that were there on the Sunday. And so they had the pictures taken for all those mothers holding a gift of a rose. And that's where I was this morning. Vicky's at the back in the middle there. And she's being looked after by our girls tonight, so that's why she's not with us this evening. But mothers are an important part of family, and we need to recognize that that is true. But what must be true for a family to be authentic? Because it's easy to say we're talking about authentic family, but what do we mean? So I'm asking you, what do you think must be true for a family to be authentic? You can just shout out an idea that may come to you. Anybody game to have a start? Sorry? A father and a mother is needed for an authentic family. Anyone else? Sharing with each other. So this is about relationship and more than just skin deep. Yeah, that's great. Living under the same roof. Interesting. Yeah. Howard?
You need to really know each other.
Yeah. So this ties in with what Nathaniel's saying about sharing. That's how you get to know each other, isn't it? So it's actually going beyond just the surface stuff. Trust is such an important thing. Yes.
When you come back, they have to take you in.
Right. So you may leave, but you've never left. You're still part of family. And when you come back, you're still part of family, and they've got to take you in somehow. Yeah. Jan. Oh, Jan first. Caring. So caring and sharing. Yep. Joseph?
Yeah, like I remember
Yeah. So it's a simple phrase, father and mother, I love you. But that has got such depth to it, hasn't it? Yeah, that's very good. So we've got some base understandings of what we understand to be an authentic family. Now, we all have different experiences of family, and some of our experiences are good and some are painful. Some we wish never happened, and some we want to celebrate. We all have these different experiences in different stages in our life. So I'm not wanting to pretend that family is always a picture postcard event. And so sometimes family can be painful. But I thought I'd go to that source of wisdom called Copilot the AI system, and see what it said when I asked the same question. And it came up with 7 things, and we've identified some of them. So where people can be themselves, they don't have to pretend to be something. Relationships that are based on honesty, so not just pretending, not skin deep. Care is real, so we're talking about care, and it's not just symbolic. Conflict is allowed and survived, and so when you're saying you can leave and come back, sometimes that's around conflict, but you're still part of family. Power isn't abusive. So there is power dynamics within family, but it's not abusive in the authentic family. And belonging isn't earned. This is something that you are. You are part of a family. It may be a wonderful family, it may be a terrible family, but you're part of it. And the family adapts. We all grow, and our roles within families change. So this is what Copilot had to say. This is not a biblical view of family. This is AI's interpretation of the question that I asked it. The reality is we all long for family. If we're not acknowledging that we're part of family, we miss it. We need it. And our biological families are important to us. Our church family is important to us. And we need to recognize that this is something that we all need. We want to belong. We want to grow. We want to do this together. These are the aspects of an authentic family. So the church in Corinth, this letter that Paul wrote to the Corinthians, was not an ideal family. And we're talking about their journey towards becoming an authentic family. So the things that Paul has picked up on, the things that he's referencing, are issues, they're problems, they're things that need to be worked on and resolved. They are not the ideal picture. They argued, they chose sides, they weren't unified. These were issues that needed to be dealt with. And this evening we're looking at the middle one. They chose sides. So the few verses within chapter 3 that we're going to be focusing on are up on the screen here, and I'm just going to read these out for us. After all, who is Apollos? Who is Paul? We're only God's servants through whom you believe the good news. Each of us did the work of the Lord that the Lord gave us. I planted the seed in your hearts, and Apollos watered it, but it was God who made it grow. It's not important who does the planting or who does the watering. What's important is that God makes the seed grow. The one who plants and the one who waters work together with the same purpose, and both will be rewarded for their own hard work. For we are both God's workers, and you are God's field. You are God's building. So these are the verses that we're going to be thinking about this evening. Let's look at the beginning. Who is Apollos? Who is Paul? We're only God's servants. The problem that was being addressed is some people were saying, I follow Paul. And someone else was saying, I follow Apollos. And this was causing division in the church. And fortunately, we don't have the situation where some people say, I follow Howard, and others are saying, I follow Murray. And think of what the impact on our church would be if that was the case. We don't have that situation. I don't think we ever will have that situation because of Howard and Murray and the way that they lead. But in the church in Corinth, this is what people were saying. And of course, Paul wasn't actually there to be able to address it face to face. And so he needed to write this letter, having been made aware of the problem. And Paul's response is, we are only God's servants. We're not in charge. We don't set the direction. It's not a case of follow me or follow this other one and then we'll have all the right answers. The leaders, Paul and Apollos, are only God's servants. No one of us, no one of them owns the church. The Baptist Union may own this building, but this is God's church. And that's the mission that we're on. So we're only God's servants through whom you believe the good news, and each of us did the work the Lord gave us. We all have different jobs. We don't have the same role in this church family, and that's the way family works. We all have a role to play, and when we all play our role, then church works. Our families work. When some of us refuse to play our role, then we are not what we're meant to be. We are less. When some of us try to magnify our role, then we are misshaped and we are less. But when we play our role and recognize that every single one of these roles is important, then our church family is the right shape and we can be authentic. And we just think of what's happened this evening. We came in, and for most of us, the tables were already set out, chairs around, tablecloths on the tables. The platters were ready with glasses on them, ready for communion the juice to be poured in. Someone or some group of people had gone to the effort to make that a reality. That's an important role to play. Food was brought. Not everybody brought food, but enough people brought food that there was sufficient for us all. And we know week on week that we don't know what to expect for the food, but it's always wonderful. And there's enough. There were servers behind the table. There were kitchen heroes making sure that the dishes were done. The net was up the front here, coordinating all the events that were happening tonight. And I've been given this role to speak this evening, and on it goes, including packing up this evening before we all go home. And all of these roles are important, because if these roles don't happen, then our church service is missing something. And we are not united and working together in the way that we should be. Paul says, I planted the seed in your hearts. Apollos watered it, but it's God who makes it grow. See, we have our roles to play, and we need to be faithful in playing those roles, in serving the mission that God has put in front of us. And as I say, each one of us has a role to play. But as we do that, we need to recognize that God is at work in us, in each other, and those around us. And it's not for our glory or our credit that God's faith is growing in other people's hearts or in our hearts. It's because God is making it happen. To the extent that we make invitations for people to come and join us on a Sunday, yes, that is part of the mission that we get involved in. And it's a vital part of our mission, as all of these roles are. Whether someone decides to come is up to them. But we need to recognize that God is working in our hearts as we make this invitation, and He is working in their hearts as they receive it. How they're going to respond to that is a lot to do with how God has been working in their heart already. And so it's not about this wonderful approach that we may take of invitation that always gets someone to come along because our invitation is so wonderful, because that's not how it works and it's not who we are. But it's that we were faithful to make an invitation, step out and take a risk and be on mission, and let God make it grow. And so our numbers may grow and we will grow in our spiritual maturity. But in all of these things, it is God who makes it grow. It's not important who does what. Yes, we have different giftings, we have different experiences, and we're able to do different things. But it's not important which one of us actually does them. And if we start to look around and say, oh, so-and-so does this and I don't, or I do this better than someone else, or whatever kind of comparison that we may come up with, we once again are missing the point. God has given us the roles to play, and if we're willing to play them, that will become about. It will be apparent to all of us what our roles should be. Comparing one against another only leads to a downward spiral. We're not the same. So when one person does a role and someone else does that role the next week, they're not going to be the same. And they shouldn't be the same, because they are giving of themselves into that role. And so we need to recognize the strength that each person brings to the roles that they play and value that. Recognize it, encourage it, but not make comparisons. Because comparing leads to discontent, which leads to disunity, which leads to a family falling apart. And that is never going to be a road that we want to travel. So no competition, no comparison, no pressure. If I was trying to present this message to you in the way that Howard would present it, I would be under immense pressure because I can't be like Howard. And why would I be? Because I'm me. If Vicky was preparing this and presenting it, you'd be much more engaged and it'd be a much more pleasant experience. But I'm not Vicky. There shouldn't be any pressure for us to be like someone else. We are ourselves. And we have one purpose. This is to see the seed grow. This is to be on mission for God. What is the mission that God has called us for? It's life transformation. It's being a family together where we work together to encourage each other to become more and more like Jesus. And as we do that, to share the good news that we have with those around us and to draw them closer to Jesus. And so we get this sense of them becoming us as we are a family and as God makes it grow. But this is the purpose that we are here for. There are many things that we will do together. There are many needs that we have where we will care for one another. There are many things that we will share and encourage each other about. But there is one purpose, and that is God's mission. That is what we've been called to work on, to bring all things into God, to reconcile all things to Him. So we are made up of different cultures. We have different experiences. We've lived in different countries. We speak different languages. We have different expectations even of what church should be like. And yes, these differences are real, but they should be less than this one mission. And if we can put this mission at the forefront of all we do, all these other differences can also be reconciled because we will be able to work together. We will find a way because God will show us a way. If we allow these differences to become more important than the mission, once again, we fall apart and we lose. We need to recognize this field where the seeds are planted belongs to God. It doesn't belong to us. So Paul wrote, the one who plants and the one who waters work together with the same purpose. Both will be rewarded for their hard work. It's the work that God has given us. And yes, we need to work hard on this mission. We need to be faithful. We need to be reliable. We need to be resilient. Think of the words that are on the screen here. which we thought about our mums, but so much of that applies to each one of us in the way that we carry out this mission that God has given us. And as we engage in this mission, thinking of these descriptors applying to us, then we will be rewarded by God, because we will demonstrate the fruit that the Spirit has grown in us. We will be the people that God has designed us to be. We will be fulfilling His mission. But the mission, the field, the church belongs to God. And if there's one thing we need to take away from this evening, is that it's God's work, His job, His field, and His rewards. It's all about God. We fit into His purposes. He does not fit into ours. It's so tempting to allow our dreams and aspirations to become the most important thing and say, God, you make my stuff happen, and then I'll acknowledge you. But that is the wrong way around. We need to have one first priority, and that is God. Everything else needs to fit under that. But as we do that, we need to recognize that people matter. God has chosen us. He's called us to be gathered together in this room. And the church families all around the world have been called to be part of the family they belong to. They matter because they've been given this role, because the call is for a purpose. And as I said before, if we don't engage, if we don't obey, if we don't perform the role that God has given us, then His church is less than it should be. People matter within this. Carries on. Paul says, for we are both God's workers and you are God's field. You are God's building. So we have a picture of a field where seeds are planted and watered and God makes them grow. And then Paul moves on to a different picture of a building being built, where the foundation of that building is Jesus Christ. I was talking at the table with Marty and we were talking about plastering and how important it is to get things right. And a small mistake at the bottom of a wall leads to a bigger mistake at the higher you get. Well, it's true for any building that you want to create. If your foundations aren't sound, if they're not secure, if they're not reliable, then whatever you build on top of that is going to fall apart. Our building, this building that we are part of, that God is creating, is based on Jesus as the foundation. He is the cornerstone. He's the one that sets the direction, the right angles for the walls to go on. He's the one that holds it all together. And without that, this building will not be worthwhile. So yes, our effort is important, but this building doesn't get built to our design. It gets built to God's design, with Jesus as the foundation. We're working on God's mission. We are building this building, but with God as the architect and as the quantity surveyor and the quality control and any other thing like that you can think of. So, authentic family. What are we thinking about here? We need to serve. If we're to be an authentic family, we need to be on mission. We need to serve with love and recognizing this mission belongs to God. There has to be trust. We have to trust that God creates the foundation. It's not through our effort and our strength and our wisdom that a strong foundation is created, but it's God who does this. And we need to trust Him that what He has put down as a foundation, Jesus Christ, is the one and only strong foundation. And then we need to grow together. This is not a singleton effort where we go off on our own and do our thing and not in relationship with those around us. That's not authentic family. But an authentic family grows together, remembering that it's God that makes us grow, but we do so together. And so we encourage each other. We look out for each other. We share about ourselves with each other. We hold each other accountable. All of those things are what it means to be growing together. And being held accountable is not only about the things that I think or do by myself, but it's also being held accountable to be working on this mission for God. We ask during the service every week, who's made an invitation? And we celebrate invitations. And not everybody can make an invitation every week. But we want to have a culture where invitation is important and it's what we do. Remembering that it's God who's working in the hearts of those we invite that enables them to come. But working together, invitation, drawing people closer to Jesus, inviting them to think about who Jesus is in their lives, sharing who Jesus is in our lives, being on mission for God. So, discussion question for you to think about and to share. For each one of us, we're on a journey towards Jesus. Some of us are quite a way down that journey. It's been many years of our lives as we get closer and closer to Jesus. For some of us, we're still thinking about stepping onto this road and what does this mean for us? But for each one of us, someone is planting this faith with us. As Paul refers to it, planting a seed. For some of us, we may be thinking back 40, 50 years as to who planted that seed in our lives. For others of us, it may be today that someone is planting that seed. And once the seed is planted, it needs to be watered. Who's doing that in our lives? And no matter how long we've been on this journey, we still need to be watered, because a dry plant becomes a dead plant. So we still need these people around us to water the seed of faith. Who is it in your life that has done that for you or is doing that for you now? So I'm asking you to share that around your tables. It's really celebrating the people who are making a positive difference in these areas. And then we'll have a chance to feedback. So let's take 5 or 6 minutes to do that, and I'll see what you have to say.